Be fast, be physical, be aggressive within a scheme designed for players to have the freedom to go make plays. That's my take on how to describe Brandon Staley's defense based on the way some of the players who are going to play in it are speaking to the media. We'll take a look at those, plus the day 6 walkthrough that was actually closed to the public and a day 7 practice report. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. So I pulled video of 4 players speaking to the media after practices, various practices that kind of encapsulate, I think, what we're talking about in Brandon Staley's defense. Kind of reinforcing a video I made about a month ago, and I'll put it over here somewhere, where Cooper Cup basically discussed modern NFL defenses and what they're trying to do. A lot of the stuff he talked about is talked about by these 4 players. I'm kind of excited about this because I think an update in the scheme is very, very much warranted for this defense, very, very much needed, and ultimately should help this team out. So we're going to hear from Justin Reid on Brandon Staley's defense. This is from the day 3 practice, the after practice media session. Media spent a lot of time talking to Justin Reid about Brandon Staley's defense, and he kind of gave a deep dive that you don't always expect a player to give when asking questions. The audio is really bad from the media, so you may not hear the question. So more than likely, I will probably just have to tell you what the gist of the question, and we'll play the response. And the first one is they were basically asking him the impressions of Brandon Staley's defense in the new scheme.
For starters, we're doing a lot of stuff. It's not boring. We're not a one-trick pony. Every coverage of defense that you can think of, we're playing it. And Coach Staley, with his background, get to do a lot of fun things, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of setting traps. From being in the same division as the Chargers, I watched a lot of the Charger tape already, so I'm familiar with the way that he used Derwin James in that system and all the fun things he got to do with him, and I'm gonna be able to do a little bit of that. So just a really fun opportunity, man.
A really fun opportunity. Um, Yeah, I guess it will be. And he mentioned specifically Derwin James. We have talked a lot about how Brandon Staley did use Derwin James when he was with the Chargers. And look, Justin Reed's saying, look, played against them a lot. I'm familiar with the scheme. I like the way he used James. I'm seeing some of that stuff that he's allowing us to do as in the secondary, especially as a safety. Fun things. I mean, you got to love the fact that you have a player embracing a scheme. We're going to keep referring back to what Cooper Cup was talking about that has some complexity because it is basically trying to F with the offense. I mean, it doesn't get any more basic than that to wrap everything up. I want to show you one thing before the snap. I want to trick you. I want to deke you into doing something you don't want to do because I'm shifting after the snap. I'm telling you one thing, I'm showing you one thing, I'm saying and doing something else afterwards. But the complexity, I don't think is, and he's going to talk about it a little later, is it so much rule based as in a strict set of do this, do that. If they do this, do that. Obviously, there's going to be some of that, but it seems to be, and he's going to talk about it a little later, that there's a lot of autonomy in this defense, and you hear that from multiple players actually when they're talking about it. They get something that they are absolutely embracing. That it's not a very, it is technical and structured, but it's not specifically where you're going to do this, 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 and this. What you're going to do is this. You're going to read, you're going to make your reads. You're going to respond accordingly. There's going to be some chemistry involved. Like I said, some autonomy involved. But basically, he's setting it up for the players. And this is another thing that they all talk about. Yes, it's a read, but it's not a passive read. It is not a read then react. It's a read and aggressively pursue because he wants to be aggressive. he needs to be aggressive because I think we were passive a lot of times when we tried to play zone the last couple of seasons, which is why I think we got into ourselves in trouble with so much man, zero and single high safety stuff. So I'm pleased um, with the concept so far in the sense that this isn't this isn't going to be what I felt was a very predictable Saints defense the last couple of years. They could still be very good at times, and I'm thinking my think was wrong that we didn't have the players. They were too old. They were not good enough. I'm beginning to think more and more we were just, for lack of a better word, so basic in our approach of what we were trying to do. There wasn't a lot of change after the snap that we were showing before the snap. And offenses, any decent NFL offense, especially as the season progressed. And if you noticed our numbers, this is what happened as the season progressed. More and more, not high powered offenses could roll out, throw some yardage on us, throw some points on us, and put us in a bind. And I'm looking at the second Carolina game. I'm looking at the Raiders game. There's a couple of them out there that you just like, how did that happen? Starting to kind of figure out that, I guess, for lack of a better word, we made it too easy for them. Now, in this clip, it's basically the question was, kind of the role of the safeties in Staley's defense, and you know, as far as playing front, back, it was a very vague yet technical question, and he's kind of responding to it about the stuff that, hey, well, what do you like in the aspects of what you're seeing so far in this defense?
Well, I like that. I like that he allows us to be aggressive. Some safety systems want their safety to just be passive. We just want you to backpedal all the way out of the play. Just don't let up a deep ball, but you're giving up 15-yard completions underneath you.
Okay, and that's what I was just talking about. My feeling that we were getting a lot of times from our safety play the last couple of years. That kind of what he's talking about right there is being a little passive on the back end, man single high, and being exploited because they weren't being aggressive in the sense that limiting playmaking ability somewhat by doing that. And as more and more teams integrate more and more zone matchup zone concepts, the Saints last couple of years did not do that. And when we did, the sports accountant brother-in-law and I were at a couple games, and he's like, "Man, why are we so passive in the zone? Why are we so passive in the zone?" Begin to think it just might have been by design. And what he's talking about, giving up 15-yard completions underneath, especially with our tackling problem, was a total issue last year. And I like the fact that saying, "Hey, no, we're going to be fast and we're going to be aggressive."
We're not going to just allow things to be that easy. He allows us to be aggressive, play with what we see. Like I said earlier, manipulate the coverage, make certain calls and checks that if we see something, we want to dive on it, we can, cut and replace, have another guy climb high to protect us. So he just gives us a ton of tools to work with, which makes it fun to go out there and play.
I like the fact that he keeps addressing that the way Staley's is presenting this. I want to be passive, want to be aggressive, want to present one thing, do something else, set you up where you guys can go make plays. It's going to involve some, and he's going to talk about it a little bit more in a second, some chemistry, some decision making, some communication. Probably like Kellen Moore talks about with the offensive line. Sometimes it's verbal and sometimes it's not, that you got to be able to handle it. So there is some complication to this scheme in that aspect. But at the heart of it, we just keep going back to, as Cooper Cup said, as Justin Reid just said, show them one thing, do something else, set them up to try to make them make a mistake, try to help us make a play.
Necessary for the safety that's next to you. You talked a little bit about your role and your communication, things like that.
Yeah, chemistry. I mean, like being able to communicate without communicating. Like, I can see him showing the look, and I'm just going to go and marry that look with my alignment too. You know what I mean? Just to present a picture to the opposing quarterback. Like, once you start getting on that train towards you can start communicating and you guys are on the same page and you can just kind of give each other a look and you're both thinking the same thing, that's when you're going to really start making some plays.
You found that chemistry.
Chemistry. And basically marry the look. Gonna kind of almost in effect play off each other once you get in the chemistry where both safeties know what's going on. They, they're showing the quarterback one thing, they're doing something else without having to communicate. They understand the concepts. He said, marry the concepts together, mirror each other, nonverbal. When you're not talking or openly, whether it's hand signals, what I mean by talking, or any type of actual verbal physical communication that the quarterback can see, maybe a good quarterback can, without knowing exactly what's going to happen, can read a lot from that, pick up a lot of stuff. Now you're making it, as he said, making it harder on him. So he's got to read minds almost to be prepared for the reaction that's going to happen if they do it correctly. Kind of the key in here, in the big thing that's going on in training camp with these guys is it has to be done correctly, because if not, that's when you get some serious busted coverages and bad things happen and explosive plays happen. We did an awful lot of having bad things happen, guys wide open and giving up explosive plays, especially last season on defense, but it had been creeping up more and more. I would like to see an input to that in some type of concept that, hey, we're going to try to put you in a position to make it happen. I think we were trying to get by the last couple of seasons on defense purely on talent alone. And at one point, prior to basically 22, 2023, somewhere, and I think that's when the talent, for various reasons, started to decline, and you couldn't get away with that anymore. But we were still trying. But previous to that, prior to that, we did have a lot of talent on the defense. Offensive schemes were a little different than they are now. All the factors that came together, we were throwing good to great defenses out there every year. And we got spoiled a little bit because we were kind of complacent, wanting to do what we had done during those years. And you're seeing innovators that have come out on the defensive side in the NFL and doing stuff that causing off the offense problems. And we not consistently we've been able to do that the last couple of seasons. Now, he's going to speak about Julian Blackmon here, who was just signed. Prior to this, for those first three practices, Jordan Howden was running with the ones. The previous question, I cut the answer off a little bit because the follow up was specifically about Jordan Howden. No disrespect to Mr. Howden. Julian Blackmon's here to take his job, and I'm pretty sure is going to do it in short order. First day in pads, Blackmon was already running with the ones, so I kind of fast forwarded to when they asked him about Blackmon.
I think he has a ton of talent. I think he has a very noticeable change of direction when he hits the trigger and he wants to go. It shows up. I think that's really nice, and I'm excited to see him just continue to develop.
And I thought it was worth noting that he's aware of Blackmon. Okay, obviously, both been in the league several years. Blackmon is when he is healthy, very, very good safety. They should work well together. Now, Blackmon is not necessarily coming from a similar type scheme in the sense of what Brandon Staley or Vic Fangio or any of that has done. However, he's been in several different styles of defenses in his time. In his time in Indianapolis since they drafted him, there's been some changeover over there, and I think everybody is expecting. Look, he's not really going to have a problem with this issue. He's a veteran and he's very good. Big thing is we got to keep him healthy, right? Kellen Moore did talk briefly in one of his press conferences about the fact that because they asked him about Blackmon on, well, primarily a free safety, except he's played some strong safety. And when we signed him, we talked about this where he had a whole year where he's basically the strong safety. But even when he was the primary free safety, deep guy, they did move him around the lineman. He's got a lot of snaps in the box. He's got a fair amount in the slot, and has even played some wide corner. So he's versatile. Justin Reid, kind of the same thing, especially in Steve Spagnuolo's defense as Kansas City, but he was primarily a box guy. So they asked, Kellen Moore, that's the dynamic, right? Um, Reed's going to be the strong safety and Blackman's going to be the free safety. And he pointed out, yeah, possibly. But what we like about this is they both have the ability to go forward and back, to be able to play at the back end simultaneously, you know, the versatile word, versatility. Want players with versatility. Right now, on paper, we have two of the best of the versatile safeties, not the best, two of the best. They're in the conversation when it comes to being able to play in a multiple scheme like this, be able to do multiple jobs. And earlier, what he's referring to in the chemistry, if you get two players like Reid and Blackman on that nonverbal, we know what each other's doing. We really want to jack with that quarterback in that offense. You know, going into this training camp or this offseason, safety was a big worry for me. I'm really starting to feel better and better about this position with the personnel we brought in to run it in Brandon Staley's defense. Now, one last thing on Blackman. Just got the information Cat Terrell posted on Twitter on his contract. It's only 1 year. It's a little amount of money, but I don't know the terms because when we signed him, I was thinking he's another one, a good addition to bring in for multi years. Hadn't happened, or not on this one at least. We'll see how it plays out and what the Saints' intentions are. But I'm happy with the signing. I'm happy with Justin Reid, and I'm happy with very happy with the ability to, as he said, marry them together and get them in the defensive secondary and what they can do. The mic wasn't working or something, so the question wasn't even picked up at all, and there wasn't even enough audio for closed captions to work. So I have no idea what they asked him about.
Knock people's blocks off. It was mad at people. I love physical DB play, man. Corners included. You want to get me hyped, show me a cornerback smashing somebody. But I love when the DBs get physical because a lot of offensive schemes is directed at trying to run the ball on DBs to get away from the linebackers. And, I want my calling card to be, you better run away from me because I'm going to cut you in half.
You better run away from me because I'm going to cut you in half. I don't want to say we were not a physical defense the last few years, but I felt at times we were out physical. You know, what point I'm trying to make is it wasn't we were soft like some people were throwing. I was like, no, I don't believe that for a second. But the physicality we did bring, because they were trying to bring physicality, sometimes was matched or surpassed by the other side, by the offensive side of the ball. Now, part of that was talent, part of that was coaching, because being reactive and not being aggressive sets, I want to be physical, but I'm sitting back and giving that guy an opportunity to run over me. Justin Reid is bringing a mentality in. And I know that's a mentality of Brandon Staley and Kellen Moore. And when you start talking about some of the defensive stud coaches we have on here, you know, Terry Joseph, Bo Davis, they don't want none of that passive shit. Okay. Go get people, go hit them, go cut them in half. You're a running back or your receiver or ball carrier on an offense. I'm trying to find the safeties because I want to challenge those guys. Justin Reid saying no. And not only the safeties expecting the same thing from the cornerbacks. Love the attitude, love the mentality, love the answer to that question. I felt like perfectly encapsulates the, he's talking specifically about safeties and to a large degree, defensive backs and Brandon Staley's scheme. But overall, be fast, be physical, be aggressive. I felt at times we didn't have enough of those three components the last couple of seasons. Look, even if this defense is still not on the top out of the top 20 bottom defenses, because that's where we've been finishing in the last couple of years. If we can't get out of that, but we can be a fun, fast, aggressive defense, that's playing hard and making offenses go, "Jeez, man, I don't want to play the Saints." That is a step in the right direction for handling the defense as far as I'm concerned. Now, initially, my plan was to break down various videos, sort of like we did with Justin Reid just now. But Reid, while being very specific about some of the stuff that the safeties are going to be doing, talking a little bit about the star position, cornerbacks. Overall, I think he gave a great view of what Brandon Staley's defense is kind of entailing and will encompass this year in 2025. So what I decided to do is just a little example, because if I went through a lot of the defense players video uh, media videos like I did with Reid, we'd be here for hours, which is a good thing. But for brevity's sake, I'm just going to take a couple of clips from Chase Young, Carl Granderson, and Alontae Taylor, just covering the pass rush, blitzing, that sort of thing.
What's the biggest difference between rushing from a two-point stance and a three-point stance?
I think from two, I guess just being in a two-point stance in general, you can just see the backfield more, you can see the sets better. Three-point stance, I feel you do have more, you can get off probably a little bit better. You have more power, just getting out with your hand in the dirt.
Do you think you're going to do it significantly more in this scheme than you ever have? Or has there been other schemes where you...
We're going to see. I'm playing with it right now, just depending on, what the tackle set, with the tackle, what his stance may give me, depending on run or pass, or just the play we got.
So you got some freedom to kind of...
We got the freedom.
We're talking about a little bit about player autonomy, making decisions, some of it being on them. Talking about right there, basically, 2 3-point stance, and it's not being decided by Brandon Staley per se, as he's saying. A lot of it is going to be on him. A lot of it's going to be on what the guy next to him is doing in alignment. Some of it's going to be whether it's run pass. What he's basically talking about: what angles am I going to get? Do I need to go wide? Do I need to come in a little tighter? Um, quite honestly, I knew it was flexible scheme and some independence of the players, but even down to whether he should be in a 2 or 3-point stance, and apparently he gets to make the call. Very interesting, and especially that he brings in what the tackle next to him or the defensive interior player next to him is going to be doing. That comes back around as we roll through these next couple of clips. So now let's go to Carl Granderson, who is going to more than likely be the edge player opposite of Chase Young. And this was the day after Young talked. They were asking specifically about getting wide, a wide 9 look.
Nah, it's not wider. Just put yourself in the best position to get off the ball. Yeah, so.
When you talk about like the wide 9 like alignment and everything, Chase kind of talked about that yesterday and about how that kind of elevates what y'all are able to do. Do you feel like that supports what your skill set is as well?
I feel like it just depends on you. You got to know the system. The better you know the defense and the plays and your assignment, the better you're gonna be. So just a wide 9. We played a wide 9 before, and to get off the ball. So that's our job now, just to get off set edges and play fast.
Little player autonomy. What did they want to do? And it sounds like I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it sounds like he may not be quite the wide 9 look. And he's saying, yeah, I've played it before. I know that at times we did get a little creative on defense, not a whole lot, but apparently there was some wide 9 in there when we did. It's really, as he brings up, knowing the system, knowing the players around you, understanding it. And again, a certain independence to going back to what Chase Young was talking about. 3-point stance, a little more power. 2-point stance, maybe a little wider, quicker to the ball. You're able to see everything because you're standing up. And how these guys are going to be on opposite ends playing edge, going how they play off each other. Not to mention what the interior guys are doing in between them.
You brought up the blitzing that you're going to be able to do in this defense, and we obviously saw a bunch of that last year. What has made you good in that? Like, why do you think that's something that you would sell at personally?
I think it's always been something me being quick and having speed is always a plus. And then having our edge guys outside and knowing what they're going to do helps a lot. I think Coach Staley kind of dials them up at the right time. So I think that's probably the most special thing about it.
Is there like some instinct involved in that too?
Yeah, you got to know who your tackles are, who you're going up against, knowing if they're quick, if they set high, if they set low. So that'll be something that I'll implement into my film study this year that I didn't do last year.
Alontae Taylor expected to play the star position. You know, in this conversation, a little before they were having with him was about communication. The safeties have to communicate with the corners. And then they kind of walked it into blitzing. And basically what he's saying is, speed and quickness for him. He is a secondary player, but a lot of what's going on in this scheme is, are the edges wide? What are the tackles doing? He has to understand all that, even when he's called upon to blitz, when Brandon Staley dials him up. Even said at the end, he's going to have to incorporate keeping an eye on what the tackles are doing, whether they're setting high, setting low, where the edge players are, the whole shebang, into his film study to make sure he knows what they're doing or not going to do, so he knows when he's blitzing where he's going and how he's going to do it. I wanted to cover for the defense. Like I said, I could have went a deep dive black hole even further than that. But I think it's a good glimpse and overview. It is definitely not everything. It's only a small portion of it, but I think it's important that we kind of understand what's going on. Today was this is Tuesday. Filmed all this prior to Wednesday, which will be the day 7 padded practice. But in day 6 today, it was a walkthrough closed to the public, and this was acknowledged as part of their emphasis on recovery and player availability. So just simple walkthrough, nothing hardcore going on there at all. Mike Triplett reported on Twitter that Devon Godshaw apparently is a fan of this because he was quoted as saying, um, "It's an approach everyone should follow." So, a fan of it there. Also, Cat Terrell reported that they have the afternoon off completely. They're doing a team bonding activity, and they're going to go bowling. But really, seriously, there is one big item to note that came out of this was that per Nick Underhill, JT Gray, who left practice yesterday with an injury, was at the walkthrough and doesn't appear to be anything serious. And also, Matthew Paris was able to ask Kellen Moore and get Kellen Moore to acknowledge that the injury for Gray is actually a hamstring. So hopefully, not going to be out long. We'll get him back soon. 2 consecutive days of padded practices, one open, one closed, and then they're going to be heading off to California. Practice number 7. Overall, the media consensus that this was the best day for the quarterback group, and it was an offensive rebound for the whole entire offense compared to what went on the last 2 days, especially Monday's padded practice. So for that reason, since I'm planning on Friday to do a lot extensive coverage of the offense, sort of like we did on the defense today, um, just going to give you the abbreviated version of what happened today. Hayner was with the ones, Rattler was with the twos, Shuck with the threes. And like I said, overall, the media is saying, hey, this is the best the quarterbacks have looked yet this camp, which is good. We talked about overcoming adversity and making adjustments. Sounds like the quarterbacks did it, and pretty much the offensive line too, because it seems they had a much better day than they had Monday. So, and it makes sense. Those two things happening at once will be an improvement. Um, Now, the O line, while improving, and I'm calling that a win, it does sound like it wasn't like they dominated the defense like the defense did to them on Monday, but at least they're improving and they're starting to hold their own. Specifically mentioned was Kelvin Banks doing a lot of good work against Chase Young today, which is good to hear. Overall, I think this is a big bonus day for the offense, and we'll break down on Friday running through it. But you had some long touchdown passes. The blemish, Rattler did throw his third pick of camps, getting a little concerning there, but he did rebound later on in some team 11 on 11 work where he went 9 for 10. So again, overcoming adversity, making an adjustment. Like I said, we'll talk more in depth about this Friday plus whatever happens in tomorrow's practice. The defense today, a couple highlights did pop up. Of course, Quincy Riley's second pick, and he really went up there to get that ball. It was a nice play. And to all fairness, Rattler may have underthrew it a little bit. But still a good play, great play by Riley. He had to go a long way to get it. Kool-Aid McKinstry was lots of highlights in him, both on Olave and Shaheed, providing some really good coverage. And on one of them, pretty good coverage. Shaheed had a step back shoulder throw. I believe Hayner threw it. Shaheed had a chance to catch it, and Kool-Aid just kept fighting on the play and ended up knocking the ball away at the last second to get a PBU. So Kellen Moore pointed that out in post um, practice when he was talking to the media, mentioning Riley and Kool-Aid specifically today, but even Julian Blackman the other day said very similar things about young, aggressive defensive backs that are being aggressive towards the ball. That ties into what we were talking about earlier in this video, and it is a very, very good thing to hear. Um, Special teams, it was Charlie Smith's turn today. He was 4 or 5, long of 51, missed a 49-yarder. Doing 2-minute drills, they ran. That was one of the drills that they ran in practice was 2-minute offense. And during his turn in there, he had a 63-yard attempt that it sounds like fell just short. He did miss it, and it seems like it just not quite enough leg on it. So we did have a roster addition today. Offensive tackle Jonathan Mendoza was an undrafted free agent this year. We signed him. He played at Yale with Mason Tipton, played at Louisville last year with Tyler Shuck, has starts in his college career as a right tackle. And Ross Jackson, I saw a tweet by him saying that not only some starts at right tackle, he's played 200 plus snaps in college as a right guard also. I looked him up. He's listed as 6'9" and 310 pounds. Not a small man by any stretch of the imagination. So they brought him in to replace Ball, who we cut yesterday. JT Gray's still out with the hamstring, starting to sound like day to day or a short term thing. Nobody seems concerned with it yet. We'll see how it plays out. But 3 players did leave practice today: Jawan Johnson and Trayton Welch. That's 2 more tight ends down, and John Ridgway. Kellen Moore did not speak. He was asked. He didn't speak on it at practice after practice today in his media availability, but he did say he will provide an update tomorrow. So, kind of the 4-minute version of 5-minute version of day 7. But like I said, it was a heavy offense day, and once I started seeing that come in, I made the executive decision going. We'll run through it real quick. We'll talk about it a lot more on Friday's show. Also, with the add-on of day 8 practice, which will be happening tomorrow. I believe it's padded and I believe it's closed, and see what comes out of there. So very happy to see some type of rebound from the offense, especially the quarterbacks. Like to see the give and take, but like to see better than a 2-1 because that's kind of what we've gotten so far. First 2 practices was all defense. Practice number 3, the quarterbacks and offense rebounded. We had 2 practices where the defense was the better group. A walkthrough yesterday, and then today we had the rebound from the quarterbacks and the offense again. Like to see a back and forth on that, more of it. Iron sharpens iron, right? Let him keep going back and forth. Let both groups start playing better and progressing and getting even better, you know, closer together, not have these kind of large gaps and tending to be one-sided. So, first time here, you like what you saw, please go ahead, hit the like, share, subscribe, all that stuff for me. And down in the comments, let me know how you're thinking training camp's going so far. I think they're getting, it seems, a lot of good work in for the most part, outside of Monday and then again today, a few players going down and leaving practice, but it's to be expected. So I'm kind of happy in the sense it's nowhere near as bad as it was last year, 8-9 days in, where it seemed like half the team was in the training room. Hold them. I don't want to jinx it, but I'm holding my breath a little bit that we've cleared that hurdle, and that when we do lose people, we get them back in a timely manner, 100% ready to go, and no risk of any re-injury. That was another problem we had last year. So far, I'm buying in, just like everybody else is on the team. And I'm buying in at a faster clip than I expected to, but I'm still not all the way in. I still have my reservations. If you do too, drop them down in the comments. So, till I see you next time, I'm Tim. Peace out and who dat.